Welcome back to the fam. To my left, I've got Dr. Lisa Gunderson.
Hi, everyone.
To my right, I've got Pamphinette Buisa. My name is Parker Johnson. Happy New Year, first of all.
Oh, yes, for sure.
I can't believe we're here so fast.
2023.
2023, just like that. But it's also Black History Month.
Yes.
So
Finally.
we
That's
want
right.
to spend some time with y'all celebrating us, celebrating our community, and hearing about some of the cool things y'all have been up to. What you will learn very quickly watching the show is that when a month goes by, so much happens so fast because the calendars are packed and these two are jet setters and doing all sorts of other things.
I mean, you just got back from Fiji. We'll get to that. We'll get into it.
It's fine. It's fine. We're busy, but a lot can happen. And so I'm hoping that we can spend some time catching up, but also diving into Black History Month and how that's been for the both of y'all.
Yeah.
Who wants to?
You want to go first?
You go ahead.
I'll go first.
Yeah.
I have to say that being a part of Black History Month, especially here on the island, has been really fascinating. I got here about 10 or 11 years ago from the United States. And so it's interesting coming from a place where there's always stuff happening, especially in our communities and spaces, to a space where we have to generate a lot of what's happening. And it ends up falling on a few amount of people, but we have such a thriving community, and seeing how it's growing over, I mean, you've been here all your life. And like I said, I've been here about 10, 11 years. You came in probably half that time.
Yeah, like seven years now,
And so I think one of the things we could talk about is how different that is. And one of the beauties I think around Black History Month is, especially here on the West Coast, is that diversity within our community, that heterogeneity. And that's very different, I found, than where I came from, in that here we have people from everywhere, right? Kenya, Ghana, all the different islands, the states, all over from Canada. And so what that provides is this incredible opportunity for us to be able to have this really rich diversity in terms of music, food, celebration, and for that I feel so much richer, right?
Yeah. And you mentioned before we were doing this, we talk a little bit about what we want to discuss. You'd mentioned the Black History Month, or maybe it was you, Pam, should be a time for rest. And then you said a percentage of like 25% of it is rest. The other, and that's gonna stick with me. Because I'm like, wow, I'm thinking to myself, that's true. I can think of one day where I did something just for me and for my Blackness. And this, of course. Seriously though.
It's true. I think, especially with Black History Month, I think 2 years ago, Black History Month was doing lots of active things like rallies and conferences and things like that. And then I started thinking that a lot of the times when I do that, it's oftentimes at my own expense. And I never was able to fully celebrate the entirety of my Blackness. It was always to push me into a state where I'm fatigued, to then further educate non-Black folk most of the time. And I think that has benefits, because it's giving back to community. But yeah, disproportionately, I feel like it has, it weighs on different people in different ways. And I've made a conscious effort of being a bit more intentional with how I engage with rest. I think that, especially as an athlete, especially as someone that is always on the go, it's really difficult to then detach myself from what I do on a day-to-day, and also taking a moment to be still. I think as a Black woman, I'm still learning and unpacking what does stillness look like. And I think, again, unpacking that, there's that connotation of like stagnation as opposed to just investment. The stillness can also be investment, that I think Black History Month, I think, has.
Has that. I have my note pen for that.
You said something too. You said something. These moments that pull us out of rest during Black History Month are so significant. And I don't know if people I hate to say it, but sometimes I feel like a resource rather than a person
Yeah.
in those moments.
Yeah.
Because I also want to show up.
Yeah.
Right.
Because
Right.
I love us. I love the work
Yeah.
that we do. We all
Yeah.
do. But those moments where we get pulled out of rest, that's what you said, earlier. It's gonna stick with me.
Yeah.
And something you said earlier, and not just in this one, but when we were talking before, around rest being resistance.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's just such a powerful thought, because if you even take it back, like just historically, in terms of, in my case, my ancestors come from an enslavement background, right? We think we're part of the Ashanti Nation, and enslaved, kidnapped, and brought over to this part of the world. And one of the things we weren't allowed to do was rest, except a little bit maybe on a Sunday, depending on how that was working for them.
Yeah.
But this idea of us, and you think about the stereotypes around us being lazy and not wanting to do certain things, yet we built up so much where we are. But it's this idea that I think is somewhat like psychologically, kind of like if I'm resting, therefore I'm not doing anything, then I'm not being productive, then there's something wrong.
Yeah.
And it's really kind of needing to do a mind switch that, no, actually rest is critical, not just for our minds and our bodies, but for our spirit,
Something that I noticed, particularly coming out of 2020,
Yeah.
was that I found it harder to be in different spaces because I couldn't hold conversation. I found it harder to relate. Like I don't want to go to that thing because right now things are happening on a cellular level
Right.
to me.
But that's real.
And something that's
That's real
happening
talk.
to the collective,
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't, I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
I wake
That's
up and I'm
fact.
already exhausted.
Yeah.
That isn't the case this year. This year feels very different, and I love that we're making the time to talk about things like
Yeah.
this. Like this is the recap. But
Yeah.
But I'm smiling because it's so, you all woke up in 2020, I was just like,
I know.
oh my gosh.
I know.
Oh.
Yeah.
Like,
fully.
right?
Yeah.
It was exhausting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exhausting yet urgent.
Yeah.
That was the thing. Like
Yeah.
we couldn't actually stop
Yeah.
because we knew we only had that moment in time where everybody actually gave
Yeah.
That thing.
that
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the window was like this, and you could start, because everybody blowing up your phone,
Yeah.
and then it's just like,
Boy.
I got to get in there just to
Yeah.
crack
Yeah.
that door
Yeah.
to kind of keep going. And I honestly don't know if people understood what that meant for us to do that. And not acknowledge all the other things we go through like regular folk. I still had to feed my kids. I still had to take them to school. I still had to go to work, right? We had to be there for people who were losing people, on top of the trauma, the
Yeah.
racialized violence and trauma we were seeing and witnessing daily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't turn on your TV, your
No.
radio,
It was just there. Yeah.
and then non-black folk coming up.
Yeah.
Can I tell a story?
Yeah.
Please.
You reminded me. I remember there was one day I got out of bed finally. I remember it. The what do you call them? The blinds. They were half open. It looked bad. I'm just like, I gotta get out. So I shower. We go downtown and we go. I'm like, so far so good. I'm not seeing anything pop up on my phone. Nobody's giving me funny looks. I go and get a coffee. No, I'm not.
I'm good,
not activated
yes.
right now. And I go and get a coffee, and I look up from the menu, and all I see is the T-shirt. It said, "Love black people like you like black coffee." And I just looked at the person like, I almost made it. We almost.
You almost got
And
there.
he's looking at me like,
He's like, yeah, you good?
"Yeah, you good?"
You good?
I'm like,
Oh goodness.
I'll take it. Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Yes. That's so.
That year was wild.
That's so interesting. I think
wild.
especially like from what's being mentioned, like the idea, like the sense of urgency, productivity, all of these kind of fit that what we call like white supremacy characteristics of having to be on a timeline, and in order to maintain people's attention, I think that oftentimes puts us in a pressurized position where our trauma, our experience is only accepted in a specific amount of time. And I think that that also diminishes our humanity. When there's a timeline or a certain level of capacity people have to hear our stories, our histories, we then feel like we have to do it on someone else's time. And I think especially as people, as Black people, our narratives have oftentimes been co-opted or taken, or we haven't had the opportunity to say the things that we need to say because it's on a timeline. And I think that, interrupting that through rest allows for us to then reclaim our time.
Yes. Reclaim my time.
Yeah, no, as I thought about, like, I'm
Reclaim
reclaiming my
my
time. Yeah, because I think that it sets the pace. Because as soon as we decide when we want to show up, we have the fan, we create our spaces, it's our time to say what we need to say, not on anybody else's time.
You know what I love about what you just said is what we're doing is we're kind of pouring into ourselves. Like, this cup here, and if you can imagine all that stuff we deal with, there's like a hole here, right? And it's constantly seeping out. And so a lot of people take time trying to plug the hole, but the reality is there's always going to be something. And what we need to be focusing on is pouring in to ourselves. And that's what this is doing. So no matter how big that hole is, we don't run dry. And that's being proactive, right? That doing that. And when you talked about how we only have a certain period of time, that's the pressure of this month. It's a beautiful month. But what I'm desiring is I can't wait till I get a call to talk in June.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then in August, that we're talking about our issues in April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, and January. And then in February, that's just the icing on the cake.
Yeah.
Just celebrating.
Right?
Yeah.
My favorite thing to do when February starts, and I do this religiously, is I make a playlist. I start a playlist, and I fill it with songs that make me feel like me. Like
We gotta
songs
get that playlist.
yeah, we gotta get
Yeah,
playlist.
playlist.
Yeah, I'll be in the car. I'm going wild in the car. You know what I mean?
I do.
And let me tell you something. The greetings are different between our people as well.
Yes.
There's a little,
There's a little bit of
Yeah. Had a few good ones
how
today.
You do it?
One was from the second floor. I'm in the office doing my work. Brother looks up.
Hey, all the way for.
Yeah.
It's true. It gives you a different kind of energy. I was waiting to pick up my son yesterday, and I'm in his lobby of his high school. I'm the only one in there. And my son had a playlist. And I have these buds in, so I'm working. And then, when the music just, and I was like, and then I was like, hey. And then it got the rhythm. I was like, okay, I got to stop working. I got to get up. I'm looking around because I don't want to embarrass my child. Make sure nobody is around. All right, because I was in the kind of foyer, and they're in the gym. I took out my phone because you are having an influence on me now, and I put that set, and I went, hey, and it's got this 360 thing happening, and I'm like, I think I even sent that to you all. And it has no music because the music is here, so I'm just silently.
It was quiet.
That's why.
That's why I got that. I was just like, he's having a good time. We didn't hear the music.
Because your hair was down, so I couldn't peep the.
No, that y'all just thought, Dr. G just lost it for a minute. She just silently.
I was like, have a good time.
No, I was listening.
It's like, it's tough.
It's hard on you.
It's tough. You gotta move sometimes.
Can't do.
So, were there any highlights from this month so far for you?
I'd say I had one today, actually.
Yes, fangirl.
So today I had the opportunity to speak at a middle school out in Souk, and I was asked by the principal to speak and kind of do like a Black History Month feature. It was kind of the first time I've done something like that in person, and it was really cool to.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Assembly, right?
Yeah, it was an assembly. Yeah. Yeah, it was an assembly style. So it was grades 6, 7, and 8, all in one room. And just before that assembly happened, I met with a few of the students. They were kind of student athletes with all different walks of life, experiencing, the things that you would experience at that age, and just connecting with them about some of the things that I dealt with when I was younger. Let them know that I wasn't always the top of my class. I was in trouble quite a bit, detention-wise, and it took some, shaking for me to figure it out. And I appreciated that even when the principal asked for me to speak, I'm like, what should I speak about? He's like, whatever you got to say. And I think that was really amazing, and I felt very empowered to think about what I wanted to say, because again, within the idea of creating my own narrative, I was not given a boundary as to who and what I can do and say and show up as. And I think that being able to express that not only to myself, but also to the next generation, which was super awesome to do.
Can I ask you, do you think it makes a difference that the principal was a Black person in terms of knowing how to approach you in that way, like something that could be taught to, because it's only one of maybe 13 in BC, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that made a bit of a difference?
Yeah, 100%. I think we've worked together in other panels outside of this, so I think there was initially that connection in community. I also think that it felt different. I think because I can only imagine what it's like being a principal, firstly, being a Black principal, secondly, and also trying to create a space where you are trying to showcase Black history in creative ways. And I think oftentimes when we talk about Black history, we talk about what's in the past, but also what's not in Canada.
Right.
And so,
so true.
Yeah, given the opportunity to speak about Black history, that can mean also my parents, that can mean, generations in the past, but also what's existing, what's here, and also what's now.
And you know what's beautiful about what you said? A lot of times Black history is focused on trauma.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? And that's not our full story at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why I just take such joy, because the students who saw you, not only girls who look like you, but other people seeing you, it's so massive, because that's rare to see in schools, no matter what capacity and how we come in there. And that's why it's so important to be in there. I know they were blessed by you.
It was cool. It was cool.
Yeah. That's very cool. The fan thing. No, you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
My day was just for me. It was a moment. It was when I was on vacation. The vacation was for me.
Nice.
I'm in 30-degree weather. My melanin is doing what it was built to do. You feel me?
The sun was sunning.
I do.
The sun was sunning. And I'm reading my book. I'm a huge music nerd. And so I was reading this book called Time. It was about his life and the music that he made and impacted. And I think I spent 8 hours just moving between coconut trees
Okay.
and just reading this book.
Okay.
And when I closed the book, I was like, I jumped in the ocean. I just floated. I don't mean to flex like
I
this,
know,
but
so
I got it. You asked me, I got to get it off. No. And this it was for me. I was like, I'm good.
Yeah.
I needed that because it was stillness.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nobody talked to me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm sorry.
I have the airplane mode on my forehead. Nobody talked to me.
Do not disturb.
Nobody talked to me.
People
The dogs left me alone. I'm like,
Yeah, I feel
this
you.
is for me.
I feel you.
So I haven't had a day like that in years. So that was my highlight.
And so the question becomes, how do you make that happen for yourself
Airplane mode
again?
here all the
Yeah.
time.
Can you imagine? We need a shirt like that.
Airplane mode.
Airplane mode.
We'll work on that one.
Oh,
We'll work on that one.
hey.
Yeah.
Okay.
For real. I think it's communicating my needs,
Yeah.
both to my people, the people in my life, but also internally. Like, hey, maybe I can say no. Maybe I don't need to do that
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
You know? It's okay to be still.
Yeah.
I have the permission to do nothing.
Yeah.
If that's what I need to do, I have the permission to
Yeah.
dance or take 2 hours doing
Yeah.
the dishes because the music is
Just
fire.
right?
Yeah.
You know, it's okay. So that's what I learned from that moment.
I also think what helps with that is trusting community.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is when we feel like we have to do it because no one else will, we forget that we are just part of an entire network of people.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it will get done, or maybe it won't.
Yeah.
And that's okay, because that will help spurn some other things.
Yep.
Yep.
But that we don't have to carry all of this on
Yeah.
our own.
No.
And sometimes I think we can forget that
Yeah.
and feel like we have to, especially if we're around a lot of other people who to them, you're like the only black like, didn't you know there are only 3 of us in Victoria? It's you, and me, right? And so, and it's like
that look. That look is so real.
right?
Yeah.
So that's part of our rest, is remembering who we are and that we are in community, and that it's okay. Pam's got my back, even though I'm not seeing her, and our ancestors have our back. You know what I mean? Like just putting that in that stillness. I think that's important.
Did you want to share a moment?
Yeah, for me, and it's actually tied into what we talked about in our first episode, is Black Youth Empowerment.
Yeah, big time.
Because they're having their Pro D this Friday.
Oh, nice.
They have already over 86 educators registered.
Wow.
And there is something about watching youth claim and take up space in an institution that was designed for them, but not designed for them in terms of their school.
100%.
Right? And their voices, and when they've been doing interviews, and they're just inspiring others. And it reminds me how important it is to just listen. And also how common their stories are. They're all from different schools.
Right.
But when one is like, when my teacher did, they're like, right? Like they're having this kind of common experience with each other, and that's what helps ties them together. But that power that they bring is so exciting. So I'm excited for them, but also after they're done, we're all gonna sit down and breathe and self-care, because that's critical for them to understand what that is like and what that's about, right? So again, the youth for me, it's
unbelievable. You talk about, you mentioned, I grew up here. I grew up in School District 61. So I know, we don't have enough time.
We don't have enough time. And it's all the school districts, that's the thing.
Yeah. But what's incredible is this determination and how unapologetic the youth are. And knowing how to pull each other in, pull each other up, mobilize, rally the teachers, deliver a presentation. I'm like, who? Huh?
I just saw.
Where were you when I was? I needed backup, y'all.
I needed backup, not backup. Oh no.
I was with a group today, and they brought in the teacher. We're doing a presentation, but the teacher decided to bring in youth. And these 6 youth come into the space, and the idea that the teachers and admin brought to what should happen completely got turned around 360 once the youth were able to have their voice. And heads up to admin to say, I need to excuse myself, heads up to the youth, the teachers, to say they excuse themselves. And now we have a whole new wonderful thing that is going to be sustainable for the youth. They're going to create their own group, and that's what school's going to give me time to do, is hang out with them, and we're going to create a group for them that's going to be there for the next generation.
I just want to show up to witness. You know,
it's just awesome.
Well, this is. I feel like we need like 3 Black History Month episodes.
We can.
We need.
But just for sake of time, do you want to close? I know. Do you want to close this out, Dr. G?
How did that happen?
I know. It's always happens. It always happens with us.
I know.
Any last words before we?
Yeah,
first
of all, I want to thank you all because you are filling up my cup, and I appreciate it so much. And I want to thank you all for watching us and making us a part of your Black History Month. So what I'd like to do is encourage you all, wherever you are, wherever you're watching us, please look and see of the different events that are happening in your community, in your neighborhood, and come join us, right? The thing with our fam is we want you to be part of the fam. So please do that wherever you're at, not just this month, but every month. Please do that for your family, for your community, for us. Anybody want to add anything before I say something?
I'm
You good?
good, yeah.
All right. Well, once again, we're so thankful you came and joined us today. From our fam to yours, thank you so much for joining us. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Take care.
oh, oh.